Versa best company.
Versa business system.
It's a better
Versa business system.
Versa business system.
Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. We're here with Nearshore staffing agency expert, Brian Sampson, founder and CEO of Plug Technologies. We were talking just before the show. I love hiring people from overseas. You get a different caliber. Brian, for those out there that don't know who you are and what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Shaheen, I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for giving me the platform. About 10 years ago, my life changed. I raised some capital and was working on a fintech idea, but I wanted an expat experience, didn't have kids yet, and convinced my wife to move with me to Buenos Aires.
Nice.
And it changed my life, and I've been on this road for over a decade now. And it's simply being an ambassador for this world of Latin America. I think the 2020s are the decade for Latin America. All the wind is in the sails. Happy to tell your audience all about that. But, I think there's just a treasure trove of talent down there, and it's all on the same time zone as the U.S.
Yeah, definitely, man. So you said you've been on this road 10 years. Do you mean road or roller coaster?
Yeah, that's a perfect description for it. So if I've been at it 10 years, the first 5 was like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And the second half, was like this post-COVID world.
Yeah, and it's what, 2 different worlds, right?
It's two
2 different worlds, 2 different companies. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of people, that started before COVID feel the same way, right? Like the company you were before COVID is a completely different company than you are now. And I mean, just everything changed, right? Like COVID changed so much from how people want to be marketed to how they want to be talked to, I mean, anything and everything is crazy. So in South America, did they experience as big of a, like here in the US, especially the younger generation, after being inside for a year or whatever it was, people became antisocial. They didn't want to go to the office. They didn't want to leave their house. I mean, did they experience as big of a impact as far as that goes down in South America as they did up here in the States?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I spent 5.5 years living in San Francisco,
right?
Before I did this Buenos Aires journey. And man, like everybody I talked to was in tech. All my friends were in tech. Everybody, had this in front of their face all the time. So like, who knows what they're even saying, just, just so in their own world. And then I got to Buenos Aires, and it was amazing for all the right reasons. Like I needed it at that time because you realize that, so they're eating dinner late, right? They're eating dinner at like 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
But it's such a social experience. They don't even have their phones on the table. They're in their pockets and their purses. And, where I'm used to like San Francisco, where, they had like, I don't know if this even exists anymore, that food called Soylent, where you like, it's like scientifically engineered calories, basically. Because engineers were like so focused on coding that they just had to like chug their Soylent and
Jesus.
going, you know, or you know, I was in Japan recently with my family, and you know, there's like stand up ramen shops, you know,
Right.
and you know, you go right from like the subway, you know, slip your noodles down, and then you
Right.
go on to the next thing. And it's so different in Argentina. You know, your dinner is 4 hours long, and
What?
it's not just like your Saturday night. It's your Tuesday night dinner. It's four
Your
hours long.
Tuesday night dinner is 4 hours long.
Yeah, and you know, again, like all the electronics are off the table,
Right.
and you know, maybe the first hour you eat your best steak in the world, best wine, all that, and then the next 3 hours you just relax, you talk, you engage, you converse, you tell stories, you laugh, you bond. And I realized how much I was not doing that in San
Right.
Francisco and how much I loved it in
Right.
Argentina. And, you know, I was worried like I'd run out of things to say to my wife, you know,
Right.
but
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it
Yeah.
was wonderful for our relationship. You know, we really got to talk and understand our opinions on all these different
Yeah.
things, and politics and current events and whatever, pop culture. Um, so to your question, it COVID hit the world, right? So it hit Latin America just like the States. And I was running companies that had Latin America team members. But because culture was so open and community driven and
Right.
families, you know, big backyard, asados, barbecues, being inside had a major negative impact on mental health. I think
Right.
even more so than the States because,
Yeah.
you know, in the States, we're already kind of like a isolationist society. You know, we all do our own thing for better or worse. Like, you know, we want the responsibility. We want to be in charge of our own destiny.
Yep.
And we just want to like sit indoors and have DoorDash and play video games
Yeah.
or watch.
100%, man.
You know, it is what it is. That doesn't really exist down there.
Right.
So it had like a much more negative impact. But, you know, a year or two past COVID, it bounced back, and people were very excited to spend time with their neighbors, their friends, their community.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So now when your staffing company specializes in helping companies, is it primarily here in the US?
Yeah, yeah. 100%
So
of our customers are in the
are
U.S.
in the US. So there's staffing people that are in South America for any job, I'd assume, right? I mean,
Yeah,
is there certain things that you do more of? I mean, I'd
yeah.
assume,
I'll
right?
say, yeah, I'll say there's kind of two threads. The first is um, executive roles, probably not.
Right.
Also, no one's really looking to Latin America, let alone any other country, for very junior people, right?
Right.
You're kind of looking for some sort of arbitrage where, you know, for the cost of a junior person in the US, you get a senior person, you know,
Right.
in the Philippines or
I
Turkey
gotcha.
or Mexico. So we're not really doing like the two ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And then so I think like individual contributor, senior level,
Yeah.
more IT than not, just
Yeah.
because IT has been validated, vetted. You know, India's been doing offshore
Yeah.
forever. But yeah, you know, accountants, marketing, virtual
Yeah.
assistants, software developers, DevOps, all that stuff is
Yeah.
kind of right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Definitely, man. Like I have I've had an overseas assistant for I don't know 6 of the last 8 years,
Yeah,
and she's just incredible. And I've got a video editor overseas. I just hired a second assistant overseas. Like they're just amazing, man. Like they work hard. They're not as expensive as a U.S. employee, right? But dude, like one of my assistants is on vacation every other week. You know what I mean? So like, even though they cost probably a quarter of what you would pay someone here in the US, like their cost of living is also a lot less, right? So like some people like that don't know, right? They down like, oh well, you're just taking advantage of people in South America, or you're just, you know what I mean? Like it's like you just don't know, right? Like the cost of living is so much cheaper down there. They're super grateful for these opportunities and these jobs, right? Um, so what are the big differences as far as, I mean, obviously you get a harder worker, you know, it's same time zone here as the US. It's a cheaper cost. What are some other main benefits of hiring you know,
Yeah.
down south versus here in the States?
Yeah, I love this question, Shaheen, and there's kind of two different parts of it. So the first is all the stuff that you read on any blog post. Same time zone, you're not doing midnight calls, all that
Right,
stuff, right? But I want to share the second bucket that we don't think about a lot. So first and foremost, is the English good? Like Spanish is the first language.
right,
Where places like India and the Philippines, English is the first language, right? So you're
right,
not missing that. And no disrespect to anybody in Philippines and India, but what I've noticed about Latin America, I think it's because of the proximity to the States,
right,
that the English is like US style English.
right.
Watching the same Netflix shows we are.
Yeah,
They're
that's a good point. I never thought about
understanding like
that.
kind of the pop culture.
Yeah,
They
it's more European English over there versus
yeah,
American English.
yeah, they
Interesting.
get like
Huh.
the style, the slang. They can have
Yeah.
feels like an unscripted conversation, where
Right.
it doesn't have to like stay in the box.
Right.
But my favorite part of hiring people from Latin America is actually about the the myth versus reality. So what do I mean by
Interesting.
that? I mean, we all have preconceived notions of what Latin America is. And remember,
Right.
25% of Americans have a passport. That means we don't travel. And
Exactly.
and if we do, maybe we go to Cancun or something, right? So we have our mind kind of made up by what we read in the news, or speaking of Netflix, we watch
Yeah.
Narcos and we think we understand Mexico,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the population, I think, is unfairly judged based on poor decisions that the leaders make.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Venezuela has like these long lines, like bread lines, and it costs like $1 trillion, whatever their currency is, for like a cheeseburger, and
Right.
you might as well, use it to heat your home and just burn
Right.
the paper from the currency.
Yeah.
Mexico gets a bad rap. Colombia used to, for cartels.
Yeah.
Argentina, you hear about inflation and stuff like that. Again, leadership, institutions poorly run.
Yeah.
Uh, but what actually happens is when you're living in kind of chaos, you become really good at turning chaos into calm. You get really good at overcoming adversity,
Yeah.
thinking outside the box, finding creative solutions, being clever,
Right.
just like being humble, grateful, work
Yeah.
hard. And Shaheen, I mean, you hire a lot of people. These are all things you want in somebody,
Yeah.
right? Like
a hundred
hardworking,
percent.
creative, clever. And so stuff that would just stress the heck out of people that I
Right.
knew from California or
Yeah.
Chicago, where I grew up.
Yeah.
It's just like a normal day for these guys, and they didn't choose where they were born, but they made the most out of it, and they
Right.
figured out a way to be gritty, scrappy, and
It,
all the
it,
qualities we want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, when I talk to my girls from the Philippines, they're like, yeah, we got another typhoon coming, and like anybody here would be freaking out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I'm getting the first flight out of here as soon as there's any kind of word of a typhoon, right?
yeah, yeah,
And they're like, yeah, we got everything pretty much ready to go. My parents will probably get some flooding, and we might lose a cousin or two, but it's like it's normal, right? So you bring up really great points. Is like all these things that people deal with in some of these other countries. It makes them a stronger person. It makes them someone that can handle chaos and handle when things don't go right and things don't go smooth. Because guess what? That's what business is, right? It's that roller coaster. It's
Oh,
when
right
things
on.
are bad, they're bad. When they're great, right? And one another thing that I've noticed about the international employee is the loyalty, right?
Mm,
Like they are loyal. You know what I mean? They're so appreciative for the job, but like they are just to a fault loyal, right? Like, and I don't know if that's a normal thing or if I just got lucky. But like, dude, like my employees are ride or die, right?
yeah.
They will figure out a way to get the job done. They don't want to let anybody down. Unless they have no electricity, like they're going to grind. It doesn't matter if they're sick or whatever's going on, right? Like it's really a different caliber of employee. And I'd assume is that the same with South America?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you put that, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So some people get they're like, well, the English and the accent, and I haven't had a problem with it personally, right? There's people always think of the what is it, the car extended warranty,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like, oh well, when somebody calls me with a foreign accent, like I just assume it's a spam call. And it's like, but I don't think everybody's like that. Like for the most part, right? Like when you look at business owners in the US, right? Say you're a B2B company, what percentage of business owners are foreign themselves? Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, I think in the US, yeah, like over half of entrepreneurs are
yeah,
immigrants, right? And
right.
yeah, like because they come into the US with an entrepreneurial spirit, and nothing's
Yep.
going to keep them down, you know?
Yep. Yep. 100%. What are some other reasons why people, hold back from hiring? Do you think it's just a knowledge, like they just don't know any better, or like the only complaints I've ever heard is like, oh well, I just don't think it would work for my industry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So let me hit on that. I think that's a really well put question, and a common question that I think a lot of people are thinking. So maybe let me hit on, I think, like right tool for the job. And then the second part, we can talk about like how a company might go ahead and do this, because
Yeah.
in that second part, there's a lot of like paralysis, and by the way, the US, if you're based in Florida and you try to hire somebody in North Carolina, it's all crazy anyway,
Yeah. Exactly.
so uh, sometimes we just stick to like whatever is the easiest on a compliance side.
Yep.
Okay, so right tools for the job, right people, right country. Okay, so I'll take Latin America for example, because it's not just Mexico. There's a lot of different countries. They all have their own nuances, and they all have different things that work to their advantage or disadvantage. And
Right.
maybe like a good example off the bat would be Nicaragua versus Costa Rica.
Uh
A lot
huh.
of people know Costa Rica because they think about zip lines and monkeys and ecotourism, right?
Yeah.
Um, Costa Rica, because it attracts so many tourists, it's more expensive, and it's also a pretty small country. There's not a lot of people that live there.
Right.
But Intel and Microsoft and some big guys are there. The cost for labor in Costa Rica is pretty high. Okay, a country that borders them is Nicaragua,
Right.
and Nicaragua. So Costa Rica is very stable.
Yeah.
It's safe. Nicaragua is a little more volatile. Again, leadership, not people,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but the English is great. The people are hungry. They're excited to get to work. So, um, the labor is actually less expensive in a place like Costa Rica. And you could kind of do this like throughout.
Interesting.
Argentina is a little more expensive than say its neighbor Bolivia,
Right.
and they all have different pockets. Brazil is trying to build the city called Florianopolis, which is like
Right.
a Silicon Valley, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's all this like crypto and AI and data engineers that are working
Yeah.
out of there, kind of a tax-free haven.
Yeah.
Argentina has a lot of full stack software developers. Um, One of the highest English fluencies, in Latin America.
Okay.
So there's all this kind of like nuances. But back to Nicaragua and Honduras, El Salvador. These are Central America countries, and they're an alternative to a place that I think is an excellent call center country, which is the Philippines. We've talked about
Right.
this before.
Yeah.
Um, the costs are almost the same, but in the Philippines, if you want somebody to work U.S. hours, they're working the night shift. In
Right.
South America, they're actually working your hours, so you're not kind of inconveniencing them. The
Exactly.
costs are about the same. And then again, you're kind of getting U.S. style, unscripted. So again, like I love the Philippines. I've got a nice affinity towards them. But sometimes, if you were to say call United Airlines and you get connected to the Philippines, and it's like an easy, like, hey, I just want to change my flight to this, no problem. They have a process and they follow it. A 7-step process, and you're good
Right.
to go. But what if you ask them something that's not part of their script or process? It can go south pretty quickly.
Right.
Therefore, like certain countries, certain places are better than others depending on what you're looking for.
Right.
And that goes to the second part of, well, how do I do this? So if you're a small business, there's no shame in DIY, do it
Right.
yourself. There's
Yep.
platforms like Fiverr,
Yep.
Upwork. You could post a job, get a bunch of applications.
Yep.
I would recommend doing the interview just like you would hire somebody in your own home city,
Yep.
right? Don't treat it any differently. And also
Yep.
respect that these are people, these are individuals with
Right.
families. And, a lot of times we tend to treat people kind of outside of our home country as this like random low cost resource. And we almost refer to them like that. And it's the
Wow.
wrong way to do it. You want to treat them
Yeah.
like people.
Yeah.
And you can, do a whole DIY. But once you've kind of leveled up just a little bit, that's where an agency like me and my company, Plug Technologies, might come into play.
Right.
And the reason I say that is a lot of like the really best talent probably won't be on Fiverr and Upwork.
Right. Right.
Upwork especially made a strategic decision a few years ago, so employers kind of get a free ride now, but it's the candidates, the consultants have to give a big piece to Up.
Right.
So it's kind of cross prohibitive. So once they've kind of leveled up out of Upwork, they're looking for recruiters. A company like mine, we have recruiters in Latin America. Um,
Right.
we're vetting English, but we can speak to people in their native tongue.
Right.
We can understand their motivations, vet them for culture, vet them for domain skills.
Right.
And then, we just kind of bill this out in our billing rate per hour. So, we make money to cover our overhead,
Yep.
candidate makes money, and then the company doesn't have to worry about compliance or how do I do business in Mexico? Do I need to set
Right.
a shop there? Nope. We do it all for you. And our US entity just works with your US entity.
Right. Right. Very cool. Now, can that get super complex? Um, I mean, for me, I have a couple employees in the Philippines, no big deal. I'm paying them. It's a business expense, just like anything else. How complex can it get? Um, as far as you said, being compliant. Explain that to me, because that's one thing that I've never even really thought of.
Yeah. So platforms like Upwork will usually, kind of take care of that. We do the same thing. So every country is different. There's different things like import tax and getting hardware in and out of the country and customs. There are things like aguinaldo, which is the 13th month salary that comes into play. There are things like tying to the pension system. There are things like long-term
Interesting. Yeah.
severance and
Right.
or,
So things I didn't. Yeah. That
yeah.
you just don't
So
think
we're
about.
experts in
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's our
Right.
burden, not yours. You just have a nice, clean hourly
Right.
bill rate. And you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Right. Right. Very cool. So, for someone that is looking to kick around the idea, I'll say I'm looking for to hire some employees, want to get an idea of what type of employees I can hire down in South America, what that process looks like. What do they do? Is there like do they just tell you what they're looking for and you set them up with a bunch of interviews, or what's that process like?
Yeah, it's actually almost exactly like if you were to hire a staffing agency to help you in the US. Like, let's say
Right.
you're based in Miami and you need a admin assistant or a marketing manager, and you want them to work at your office in Miami. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, so you would tell the staffing agency, in this case, it's us. Here's my budget. Here's what I'm looking for. Um, they can use their own hardware. Maybe the hours are a little more flexible, whatever. So, like, we get all that. Um, culture fit. All these different things, right? So, just like if you're hiring in Miami or Chicago,
Right.
we've got it. Now, what sets us apart a little bit is, like I said at the beginning of the show, I had an expat experience in Buenos Aires.
Right.
My partner lives in Atlanta, but he had a couple years as an expat in Monterrey, Mexico. So we can like kind of live it, breathe it. We've
Right. You've
been there.
actually done it.
Yeah. So our big differentiation is we're really good advisors. We can advise our prospects and customers based on all the constraints you're looking for and the goals that you have. These are the countries or the cities that we would recommend you look.
Right.
And if we get kind of alignment there, then our recruiters go to work. A lot of times they've got databases to work with already and past relationships and they
Right.
know people, talent pockets, all that.
Very
And then
cool.
we start screening candidates, put together a short list. Again, very similar to how you do this in the States.
Right.
Put together a short list, and the client does all the final interviews. So they
Yep.
make sure that they get who they're going to get.
Yep.
And then, one other thing that is an important differentiator is we're a staffing company for better or worse. But why that's better is we think the magic happens when we get out of the way. So we make the intro, we handle the compliance, and we handle the invoicing. But
Right.
day to day work, we get out of the way. I think
Right.
a lot of times, if you have a solution company, they're they're in the way. They've got all these project managers and architects and
Yep.
directors. So you're just playing this like long game of telephone. So
Yeah.
number one, like that bill rate is a lot higher than what that candidate gets because there's so much overhead in the middle. And then second, you don't really know like did the person who's actually doing the work, did they get the information that I'm trying to send them and communicate?
Exactly.
Stuff kind of get lost. We
Yep.
make the placement, we get out of the way. We want you to have the magic and work with that candidate directly.
Yep. I love that, man. So it seems pretty straightforward. So if somebody wants to, really start, looking into this, do they have to like pay you a retainer up front, or like how do they reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you and start just
Yeah,
looking at the idea of it, right? Like there's no upfront commitment, right? They either find a great candidate or they don't, right?
yeah. So we actually take a lot of the risk. Um, we've spent a lot of years perfecting our process, and so we take the risk up front. We do the recruiting cycles, and make sure we get the right person. There's zero
Right.
dollar retainer, $0 up front,
Wow.
and then there's no invoice until not only the person is hired, but they start working.
Right. Okay.
For every hour that they work, you'll get an invoice at the end of the month.
Very cool. So you're not even investing until what they've already worked there for almost a month?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We take that risk. Knock on wood, we don't get burned.
Right. Yeah, I mean if you're doing things the right way and you're providing a great service, there's no reason, right? Like
And we've
that's
worked with
awesome.
over 50 customers, a lot of very very happy customers, and they trust us to advise them, guide them, and make intros to the right talent.
That's great, man. So you have 50 clients right now, and how many people have you guys hired?
So we generally hire about 100 people every year.
Okay.
And sometimes projects are shorter. Sometimes maybe they might be 3 months. Sometimes they might be
Right.
6 months. And people are people, businesses are businesses. Sometimes
Yeah.
that business might lose budget after a few months or something like that.
Right.
But typically every year we're hiring about 100 people in Latin America for our customers.
Very cool. Very cool, man. I can tell that you're passionate about it and you enjoy it because even when you talk about it, you can't help but smile.
Yeah,
I love that, man. It's
I love
important.
doing this stuff, and you know, um, when I started 10 years ago, in this industry, a lot of it was like kind of firsthand experience, learning.
Yeah.
Um, but I get up every day wanting to be the ambassador because I feel like this is like it's still a secret, but I want people to
Yeah.
know the secret. I want people to
Yeah.
know, that there's this really cool world that exists that maybe they don't know.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Dude, Brian, thank you so much for hopping on with us. I'll make sure to put the link. What is that link again to get a
Yeah,
hold of you guys?
our company is Plug Technologies. That's plug with two G's.
Yeah.
And the website is plugg.tech, TECH.
.tech. Okay, so I'll make sure to put that in the description. That way they can just click it right on the description and get right to you guys. I'll actually hit you up as soon as we're done here because I got a couple people I need to hire, and I've been wanting to go South America. Because I have heard, and it does make sense. The English dialect being European versus American. And because I would never do it for a sales rep in the Philippines, but I think a sales rep in South America could work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. We've
yeah,
we've
yeah,
done
I'll be
that
in touch,
before
man.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you.